thoughts on NSJ, like where the Hornets are with him as a prospect and what you've seen over the last 2 weeks here.
One, I'm very happy that he's getting some run. I hate that it has to come with injury. Of course, you never really want to see guys like this is the only way they can get on the floor. But I really like what I've seen from him. He's becoming more, even though it's a short, very very small sample size, but he's becoming more of what I was hoping he would be when we drafted him. I like that he's a lot of his points have come off ball, but I do like the threat he is by having a ball in his hand. We saw that in the Dallas game. I like just how he plays with LaMelo because I think that's something that a lot of people were worried about, considering his you didn't really get to see him with guys like Anthony Black, Ricky Council IV when he was at Arkansas. Who else was on that team? Jordan Walsh, I believe, was on that team as well. So we didn't really get to see him interact with those guys. That was a fun team, but
they sort of a lot of talent, sort of underachieved, but amazing talent on that roster for sure.
And he was supposed to be like the leader, but then it kind of came Anthony Black after injury. But he's just becoming more of that. He's playing well off ball, like I said. I really like. I do wish we could see him pass a little more. He's just kind of just in there shooting, but I like that he's being confident in his game. He's taking these like quick floaters. He's taking these fadeaways. And he's creating space. I mean, we'll probably talk more about it, but in the Dallas game, while he did capitalize on being open in the corner, there were times where he created space for himself when no one else was around. Just unfortunately for a few of them, he was unable to hit the shot, but the space was there. Looked like a good shot. I really couldn't say anything about it. So seeing him do that, and then I can understand. We've seen specifically for the Hornets how tough it is for guys to spend so much time in the G League, lose on top of that, like as far as, the Hornets just losing, injuries on top of that, changes on top of that, and they just they don't have their confidence anymore. He has just came out and just played basketball. I think that it's one of those things where when players have the yips, they always say, I just had to remember, I'm here to play basketball. And that's just what it looks like from NSJ, is that he's not trying to do too much or too little. He's just doing what the moment calls for, and I think he's capitalizing on that for sure. I know that there was like a brief little rumor that the Hornets were looking to trade him. So when I first saw him into the starting lineup instead of Seth, because usually it's been Seth in these kind of moments, I was concerned of maybe are they trying to up the trade value? But I don't know. Now it's tough because if you were, now he's playing kind of what you expected, very small sample size, but. If that was the plan, I feel like it kind of backfired because you could use a guy like this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see the point in trading a guy like Nick Smith unless you really just thought he was plateauing as a player. I mean, he doesn't turn 21 until April. Like he's still very very young. Former top 10 prospect. Sort of had his 1 year at Arkansas derailed by injury, but a guy that, in terms of like his pre-college production and reputation, is a guy that, when I saw him play at the Nike Hoop Summit in Portland in 2023, or 2022, he was outstanding in that outing. Looked like the best player on the floor at times. So you could understand why people, front office guys, scouts who have been keeping up with him for a long time there's a chance that a lot of those guys are still going to be pretty high on him because they know what he was capable of doing, against great competition, just 3 years ago. And I think there were enough flashes at Arkansas in his rookie season to sort of like continue to be interested in Smith. I know it hasn't like gone great, obviously, but I think even before just the last handful of games, like there were the two outings, one of the games against Phoenix, and there was a game against Detroit back in early January. He played pretty well in those two. And I thought there were some good flashes from him. And I think it's really carried over. And seeing him sort of like step into this role without Miller, I don't think, Smith is a guy that I think on a night-to-night basis, it's going to be like tough to like really get like to just bank on like efficient scoring because he doesn't get to the line a lot. Or slash really ever. And that's like, he hasn't taken a free throw since the month of December. So like he never gets to the line. He's really reliant on jump shots. And the threes he gets are usually pretty good looks. It's often he's shooting off the catch and shoot threes. He got 2 wide open corner threes in that left corner against Dallas, one from Josh Green, who was basically a ghost offensively for most of that game, and then one off a really nice find from LaMelo. But then he showed some shot creation too. It's just like he doesn't in the half court, he doesn't get all the way to the rim, right?
Mhm.
So it's a lot of like off dribble shots in that little like mid-range floater area, and like he's pretty good. Like that's clearly like a comfort zone for him, but you would almost like for that to be it's just too big a piece of his like interior offense
Right.
or his like live ball finishing offense that the
Yeah.
shots from 6 feet to 12 feet off a dribble. Again, he has super nice touch.
Mhm.
And it shows up in that area. It shows up with some of his other shooting indicator numbers. So like the bet with him has always been like his ability to move, in his shooting touch and his creativity. Like that's the bet. So you're betting on sort of like his creation upside, and not even in the same way that you might for Trey Mann, who just has all these like wipeout crossover moves. But a guy like Smith, like he fits to me conceptually into like an NBA offense or as an NBA archetype. If you're thinking of like, these are different players, but just thinking about how like Terry Rozier was used with,
Yeah.
with LaMelo, all the ghost screen actions, the pick and pops, slipping screens, a lot of threes, a lot of shots in the mid range. And, I think Rozier, I think he had his fans and he had his, detractors, but he ended up becoming like a very good offensive player despite having some quirks on that side of the court. Or maybe not, a good offensive player. Maybe very good is a little heaping a little too much praise, but he made a lot of money and was, has been a good offensive player for a long time now. And so that's kind of the role I've always like pegged for Smith, for NSJ, is this sort of like small combo guard, off ball mover type. And I really want to emphasize the movement component, the word move, because to me, when you watch him play, that's the thing that jumps off the screen the most. Like you want him popping around the court. You don't want him. I mean, yeah, it's one thing if he's stationed in the corner and he's hanging out there to get a kick out. But like most of his possessions, even if he isn't touching the ball, I want him flying around. I want him setting ghost screens, step up guard to guard screens, pistol action. I want it when the Hornets run double drag, 77 ball screen action. One of those screens is going to be Mark Williams or Moussa Diabate, but I want Nick Smith to be the other one. I want him ghosting out in the other direction as, LaMelo dribbles left and NSJ is ghosting or popping to the right wing. I thought he had 2 really nice plays in the game against Dallas where the Mavericks were loading up on LaMelo, right? And so they're either putting 2 on the ball, or there were other times too. They were throwing 2 defenders at him, even if there wasn't a ball screen. They were just going to go ahead and throw the double at him. And on one of those in the first half, it's on LaMelo's on the the left wing, left slot area, NSJ's in the opposite one. Dallas double teams LaMelo, kicks it to his right. NSJ, no hesitation, right? Just boom, catch and go. And he's able to get downhill and he throws a pat. I think he drove and then like dished it to Mark Williams in the paint. Williams got fouled. Like that's the kind of stuff I want to see more of him. Like when LaMelo compromises the defense, and including times when like Smith is like involved in the action, a lot of those ghost screen actions with LaMelo, like I want him to be thinking, getting into the gap, getting into the crease, because if they're going to load up and put 2 defenders on him, then there's space on the floor for an aggressive guard with some twitch to catch and go. And so I want to see more of that from NSJ, but I thought there were some promising signs in the Dallas game. So I like the ghost screens. When the Hornets run Spain, stack Spain pick and roll, have Nick Smith Jr. be the back screener, right? Again, so some of this is stuff that like Rozier used to do when he was in Charlotte. Some of this is stuff that Brandon Miller was doing for Charles Lee and the current coaching staff. So like getting him into that kind of role where you're really leaning into his movement, I would kind of like to see him play next to LaMelo a fair amount, because I think that's how you're going to like really like set the table for him to step into some more efficient looks, as opposed to having him like, either try to prop up the second unit, which is not looking real great offensively at the moment. I don't know if you've been charting some of those lineups; they're not great. And yeah, there's just a difference between playing off of Vasa Micic and playing off of LaMelo Ball, like stating the obvious. So for me, that's what I'm keeping my eye on, are the movement actions, specifically when he's playing off of LaMelo, and like how often is he able to get into a crease with a live dribble, playing off of LaMelo's deep pull up gravity. It's great that he can hit the corner threes. Like I believe in him on that. Like I like the shooting touch. But what else can he do? And can he turn any of those drives and any of that movement stuff either into more playmaking opportunities or into actually getting all the way to the rim? But there might be something, like, I'm not out on NSJ, and I think the last couple of weeks, like his stock is certainly like trending upwards. So impressed with him here. Darian, any other thoughts on one Nick Smith Jr.?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up very, very similar to what you were going to say. I actually had a few plays like that written down in my notes. Well, there was one where it was a ghost screen. He was coming up from the right side and he went to the left like hash, and LaMelo got doubled. Well, Kyrie tried to hedge and he kicked it out to NSJ, and Kyrie was off balance and NSJ pulled up and hit the shot. But if you look, there was a lane that he could have took and easily, I say finish at the rim, but we know he probably would have did a floater.
Yeah.
But either way. And then there was another possession, very, very similar action, except this time I think he just ended up doing the floater actually, but his gravity pulled Klay Thompson, Daniel Gafford, and I want to say it was Kyrie, all moved to NSJ as he put this floater up, which left, I think, Josh Green wide open in the corner. So we're seeing a lot of just how effective it is having someone that is too fast for you to really bet on one way. I think what's sometimes happens with Brandon Miller, they know he's going to pull it. It's just that he's so quick that it makes it a little difficult, but they can kind of bet that he's not going to try to pull past it. With NSJ, you got to be a little more solid, and you got to understand, okay, he could go past me. He could go, he could pull up, because that lane for him when he shot that three was easily, he could have got to the rim, but he decided to pull up and he made it. But yeah, I think that it's just going to be fun watching them two play off each other. Also, I would like to see what LaMelo does off him. Just why not? We're entering the second half of the season, so I think there's just a lot of fun things that can happen in that backcourt. And when we drafted NSJ, I saw him as the Terry Rozier replacement. Now that was when I thought that pairing of LaMelo and Terry would probably fare better, because I know the year we were 43 and 39, I believe that was a really good pairing, and I thought NSJ was eventually going to take that role. It seems as though now I would say the idea of the team is kind of going in a different direction. So we may not see it, but I definitely think that's the best way to use them for sure. And it allows you to have Trey Mann. I know some people are saying, how do you have Trey Mann and NSJ? They're made the same size, and a lot of things are similar for them, but there's a lot of things that are different. They're also you can have them both.
Yeah, there's also just I know Mann is I know he's going to head into restricted free agency this summer, more than likely, but yeah, you can have all of these guys. At this point, you don't have to choose. Like they can have NSJ for 2 more years beyond this one on his rookie contract. And they could, I think they should be in the business of re-signing Trey Mann. Like they can absolutely keep all of these guys and then collect more data, in a year from now, 2 years from now, then start to make more decisions on these things. Like Nick Smith is still going to be a very, team-friendly contract for at least 2 more years.